Paleolithic era, a time when survival ruled all. Early humans lived in small groups, and relationships were mostly transient. Marriage, as we know it, didn't exist, so why pair up at all? Anthropologists suggest that early pair bonding wasn't about romance, it was about survival. Mating within a stable partnership ensured better cooperation for raising children and increased the chances of survival for the group. Some call this the first whisper of what marriage would one day become. But how did these bonds form? Life was harsh, food was scarce, predators were a constant threat, and community meant everything. In this environment, dating, as we think of it today, didn't exist. Pairing was often driven by necessity rather than choice. Sexual relationships likely occurred within the group, and bonds were formed over shared tasks and mutual reliance. But was there love? While we can't know for sure, some researchers believe that early humans experienced affection and attachment similar to what we feel today. These emotions likely evolved to keep pairs together long enough to raise children. Think of it as the evolutionary foundation of love. So, while dating wasn't a thing, moments of connection, sharing food, protecting each other from danger, or simply spending time together might have been the precursors to the romantic bonds we recognize today. Fast forward to around 2350 BCE in ancient Mesopotamia. Here we find one of the first recorded mentions of marriage in the Code of Ur-Nammu, the oldest known legal code. Marriage became a contract not just between two people, but often between families. Marriage was about property, alliances, and ensuring legitimate heirs. Love? That was secondary, if it mattered at all. The ancient Egyptians too saw marriage as a partnership, often between close relatives to keep wealth within the family. Fun fact, Cleopatra herself married two of her brothers to maintain her dynasty. In ancient Greece, marriage was less about love and more about producing citizens for the city-state. Women married young, often to much older men, and their primary role was to manage the household and bear children. However, even in this structured world, there were glimpses of romance. Greek poets often wrote about love and passion, though usually outside the confines of marriage. The Romans, on the other hand, had a slightly different take. Marriage was a legal contract, yes, but also a social and political tool. Yet, they valued companionship. Roman law even allowed women to divorce their husbands, a radical concept for the time. Jump to the Middle Ages, and marriage takes on a spiritual dimension. The Church declared marriage a sacred sacrament, binding couples not just in this life but in the eyes of God. But don't be fooled, marriages were still mostly about alliances. Kings and queens used marriage as a weapon of diplomacy. For example, the marriage of Ferdinand of Aragon and Isabella of Castile in 1469 united Spain and changed the course of history. But for the common folk, marriage meant survival, with both partners contributing to the labor-intensive work of daily life. The Industrial Revolution brought monumental changes to society, and marriage was no exception. People moved to cities, away from the watchful eyes of their communities, and for the first time, many could choose partners based on love rather than obligation. By the 20th century, the idea of marrying for love became the norm in much of the world. But did you know that arranged marriages still account for over 50% of all unions globally? In many cultures, these arrangements are based on compatibility and shared values rather than fleeting passion. Before we wrap up, here are some incredible facts about marriage. The tradition of wearing a wedding ring on the fourth finger dates back to the ancient Egyptians, who believed it contained a vein leading directly to the heart. The shortest marriage on record lasted just 3 minutes. A Kuwaiti couple annulled their union after a minor argument at the courthouse. And here's one for history buffs. In the Roman Empire, a groom had to carry his bride over the threshold to protect her from evil spirits. Marriage has evolved over millennia, reflecting the values, challenges, and aspirations of each era. From survival partnerships to love matches, it remains one of humanity's most enduring institutions. So the next time you attend a wedding, remember, you're witnessing a tradition as old as civilization itself. If you enjoyed this journey through history, hit the like button, subscribe, and let us know in the comments which historical period of marriage intrigued you the most. Until next time, stay curious, stay inspired.